So, what do you guys want to talk about? Come on in. I know, apparently. Sorry.
Oh no.
Yeah, I know.
Aww. So cute.
Alright, so anyway, how's it going, guys? I'm a slightly unprepared, but you know, I can roll with the punches like anybody else. So I saw in the program that I had a panel, so this is it. If I kind of, you know, I'll think of a quote. One time I went to this little sort of a gathering that with William Shatner. It was crazy. And if you remember the Screen Actors Guild in LA, they used to do these things called conversations with. And you would get an email, and it would, you know, there'd be conversations with all these really like cool, famous people. And if you were lucky enough to be online when the email popped up and clicked on it, you know, the first 200 people got to go. So I was fortunate enough to go to one with William Shatner, and he basically just sat around and told crazy stories for like 3 hours. Luckily this panel is only an hour. But if anybody has any questions, just raise your hand and I'll answer them right away. But one of the things that he talked about in that panel was about like, the minstrels of old, right? I mean, back in when entertainment was starting, when you know, there were court jesters and there were minstrels that traveled from town to town. And they traveled with everything. They had to build the stage, they wrote the plays, they learned to sing, they played the instruments, they set everything up, and then they broke it all down and put it in a cart and went on to the next village or town. And for me, I feel like the career that I've had has kind of encompassed that. I've always seemed to be working on something in entertainment, whether it's, you know, I've been a voice actor for the last 12 years, but before that, I was a professional musician. I've worked on music for everything from Pop-Tarts to, you know, True Blood. I've written songs with Marilyn Manson and written songs for the Disney Channel. So, and then in Super Street Fighter 4, we're going through all the lines for Guy, and there's one that I didn't quite understand because one of his, you know, you lost the fight noises. It said profound sadness in the script, right? Like, okay, so he's supposed to say profound sadness as he's flying through the air? They're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, so. You know, I go, profound sadness! And they ended up using that one all the time, and it became a meme, and people asked me to say it. You never know what's going to happen. And a lot of people ask me how to get into voice acting, so my answer would be get into regular acting first, take acting classes. You know, our technology is at the point now where you can audition from anywhere, and there's certain things that you can do from anywhere. But if you want to actually get into video games or animation, you know the old adage: if you're a lumberjack, you got to go where the trees are. It's still to really get into it and work at it as what might be a job, living in LA or New York. Or Dallas, where they do a lot of the productions. Unfortunately, it's kind of a necessity. So a lot of people can't do that, but at least what you can do is get started in your local community and take classes locally, and then you can go online, and there's certain jobs that you can get from anywhere as long as you have a decent microphone and a decent preamp and computer. So. Any other questions?
You said you were a professional musician first. What made you not really transfer to like bridge the gap between that and voice acting?
Well, it's interesting. My old band, Godhead, we would tour a lot, and then we'd find you'd have these pockets of time where you're in Los Angeles, you're not on tour because you're in between what they call album cycles, and I went to my publisher and I said, hey, look, we want to start working on stuff we can do at home as well when we're not on tour, when we're not promoting a new album. So we were fortunate enough to actually write a song for a Pop-Tarts commercial. And I ended up singing on the Pop-Tarts commercial. And that sort of sparked my interest again in acting. I acted a lot as a kid. And I took a few classes. You know, it's all about, you know, nothing was handed to anybody. It was just like, how can I figure out a way to do this? Luckily, there were voiceover classes for me to take, and I just got excited. And I grew up an anime fan. My favorite anime growing up was Robotech. If you guys remember that, Macross specifically. And so it was always something that I was a fan of, and I went to a convention a lot like this. Thanks. I went to a convention a lot like this about, I don't know, 15 years ago, and met some people, and what was cool for me, it worked out that the one director that I approached had heard of my band. So I was like, oh, great. So the very first voice acting job I got, besides technically singing on the Pop-Tarts commercial, was I got to play a bunch of zombies and vampires in the very first Hellsing for the US. And it was basically nothing more than, hey, come in and make a bunch of creature noises, but you know, that opened the door. And the thing about acting in general, and voice acting specifically, it's really about, of course it's about the talent and the practice and getting good at it and working it all the time and getting together with other actors and working on your craft. But as much as there's that, the other part of it is relationships that you can make with producers and directors and just other actors that you know, the whole like connections thing. And if people see that you're passionate about it and it's something that you really want to do, it will naturally progress. You know, if you go about it too aggressively, it's just about anything else. Just we're freelancers. You know, you very rarely, you might get a contract to work on one show or one game, but then when that game's over or that show's over, we're unemployed again. I mean, being an actor is being able to take rejection over and over and over and over again. It's basically like applying for a job every day, and then once every 50 applications or once every 100 applications, you get that job for that particular time. Then from there, if you expand on that by, you know, showing up on time and, you know, doing all the normal things, doing a good job, being a pleasant person to work with, then those opportunities will start to present themselves. But being a voice actor in general is really just like jumping off a cliff. It's a leap of faith, because I could never get hired again. Tomorrow might be my last job, but you just have to have faith in yourself that you're going to get another one.
Did you ever watch the Helsinger Bridge?
Oh yeah, I watched them all. Definitely, yeah. Hellsing is one of my favorites.
The Abridged.
The Abridged, yeah.
The Abridged?
You ever seen the Abridged on YouTube?
Oh no, I don't see that.
Oh.
You should check it out.
What is it? Is it just all
It's,
deaths?
well, it's people that took in the show and did their own,
They did their own
lines,
dub. Made their
Oh,
own
okay.
little story. It's
But yeah, I was wondering, did you ever watch it? Like, the whole series,
The whole
like
series,
the original and the new one.
Yeah, for sure.
Neat.
What's the most fun you've had voice acting on a video game?
The most fun I've had voice acting on a video game. Probably World of Warcraft, because my agent sent me an audition for World of Warcraft, and what they were looking for was a replacement for the narrator. This was years ago, and I just saw that it said World of Warcraft on it, and I was a huge World of Warcraft player at the time. So I said, I can be a 70-year-old narrator! and so I went to the audition, and what was really weird was, when I went to the audition, it was kind of surreal, because next door to the recording studio was a gymnastics studio, and the director Rob Reiner, he directed Princess Bride, he directed Spinal Tap, he directed all these crazy comedies. Rob Reiner was standing there waiting to pick up his daughter from gymnastics, and I'm down the hall waiting to audition for World of Warcraft, and like, this is Spinal Tap and The Princess Bride are like my 2 favorite movies ever. Like, that guy's responsible for my 2 favorite movies, but I don't want to be unprofessional and say anything to him. So I'm just standing there, and then I get into the WoW audition, and I'm obviously not a 70-year-old man, and I'm trying really hard to make my voice as deep as possible and as gravelly as possible. But it's not working, because they're going to give it to a guy who has a real gravelly voice, doesn't have to fake it. But I was able to sort of gush to the director and be like, look, I'm a huge World of Warcraft fan. If anything ever comes up again, please keep me in mind. And she did, and it was awesome, because then I got to play Commander Stoutbeater. Don't just stand there, kill something. And some other roles like that in Prince Valnar. So working for Blizzard and World of Warcraft, and I just worked on the Hearthstone game as well. That's been super fun. So instead of this, they obviously made it like a snake tattoo, so it was more, more like would fit in the world. But so that was fun to be immortalized as a cartoon of myself.
Needs the hat.
Yeah. I didn't wear it as much then. So it's hard. You can't wear headphones with the hat on. So.
How much fun was it to do Final Fantasy 14?
That was really fun. When you get the lines that my character has, he gives this incredible sort of like almost Braveheart-esque speech, and when you see that on paper, you're like, man, this is like what I've been waiting my whole life to do, rather than all the time, So yeah, Final Fantasy 14, that was super fun to be. Hi.